Okay, so imagine a disease we thought we had on the ropes. A disease we were getting so close to eliminating for good. Now, what if it had a secret ally, hiding out in the wild, just ready to jump back into the fight? Well, today, we're cracking the case of a type of malaria that's doing exactly that. And what scientists are finding out is changing pretty much everything we thought we knew.
So what if malaria could jump from monkeys to humans? This isn't some sci-fi question. It's a real-world problem that public health officials are dealing with right now. And this one question, it's totally changing how we fight one of the world's oldest diseases. It's a central mystery we're going to unpack in this explainer. All right, let's meet our main subject, Plasmodium knowlesi. For decades, scientists pretty much thought of it as just a monkey parasite, something that rarely, if ever, showed up in people. But, something's changed. It's now a huge obstacle, especially in Southeast Asia, and is threatening years and years of progress against malaria.
Here's what you really need to get about P. knowlesi. It's not just another strain of malaria. It's what we call a zoonotic disease, which means it's jumping from animals, in this case, macaque monkeys, to people. It's actually become the most common cause of malaria in Malaysia, and it can get really severe, putting the country's goal of completely eliminating malaria in serious jeopardy. This is a massive, massive challenge. So how do you fight something like this? Well, first you have to understand it, and that's where the science comes in. Researchers in Malaysian Borneo basically launched a full-on investigation, acting like public health detectives to figure out who's getting sick and, more importantly, why.
To do this, they used a classic epidemiological tool called a case control study. And when you break it down, the logic is actually super simple, but also incredibly powerful. You just take a group of people who have the disease, those are your cases, and you compare them to a really similar group from the same community who don't have it, those are your controls. By figuring out what's different between them, you can start to pinpoint exactly what the risk factors are. It's the perfect method when you're facing a new threat and you need clues fast.
So here's exactly how they did it. Step 1, they identified 229 patients who had confirmed monkey malaria. Step 2, they found 683 healthy neighbors from the same villages to act as that control group. And then, Step 3, the comparison. They just surveyed everybody about their jobs, their homes, their daily habits, basically hunting for any pattern that separated the sick from the healthy. So what did all this detective work actually find? Well, the data started to paint a very, very clear picture. It started building a profile of the person most likely to get this emerging disease. The study's conclusion pretty much spells it out. The group most at risk wasn't random at all. It was a really specific demographic. But when you actually dig into the numbers, the picture gets even sharper. Let's take a look.
Okay, first clue, and this one is a big one. Gender. The results were just stark. Men were over 4 times more likely to get sick with P. knowlesi malaria than women. I mean, that is a huge difference.
Clue number 2.
What you do for a living. Working out in agricultural areas, like palm oil plantations, boosted a person's risk by 3.5 times. This points directly to how we're changing the landscape. As forests get cleared for farming, people and wildlife are just getting pushed closer and closer together. And the third major clue was all about behavior. Simply sleeping outside, maybe while you're working or traveling, made someone almost 4 times more likely to get infected. It's this really clear link between how people live, their exposure to mosquitoes, and, well, getting the disease. But the story isn't just about risk. As the researchers were digging through all this data, they found something totally unexpected, a fascinating twist in the case file, a kind of biological shield that was protecting some people from the disease. And it turns out the answer was in our DNA. See, people with a really common genetic trait called G6PD deficiency had an incredible 80% reduced risk of getting sick. 80%! This trait probably evolved way back as a defense against other types of malaria, and it seems to work against the zoonotic version too. It's just a powerful reminder of how our own bodies co-evolve with the diseases around us. So, the picture seems pretty clear, right? It's men working on farms and plantations who are most at risk. But the investigation revealed another layer to this story, a twist that brings the danger much, much closer to home than anyone thought. And that led to the next big question. Is this a disease you only get way out there in the deep forest or on some remote farm, or is something else going on? And that's when the clues started pointing somewhere really unexpected, right back to the home. The study found a higher risk if you had long grass around your house, or if your house had gaps in the walls. And get this, spraying insecticide on the walls was protective.
Plus, they were finding cases in young kids who had never even traveled. This is really strong evidence that transmission is happening in and around the village itself.
And this is what really separates monkey malaria from the others. When the researchers compared the risk factors, they saw that activities tied to land use, things like farming and clearing vegetation, were huge risks for knowlesi, but not really for the other human-only malarias. It just highlights its unique connection to that edge, where the forest meets human activity.
So, with all these clues on the table, what's the verdict? Well, it all gives us a much clearer understanding of this new threat, and, crucially, a blueprint for how to design a smarter way to fight it.
The investigation really shows that transmission isn't happening in just one place. It's a disease of the interfaces, those agricultural zones where people work, the forest edges where habitats collide, and even the spaces right around our homes.
So the big takeaway here is this. The old playbook for fighting malaria just isn't going to cut it anymore. We have to be way more precise. We have to target our efforts at these very specific collision points where the human world, the animal world, and the mosquitoes that connect them all meet.
And this kind of detailed risk assessment leads directly to smarter strategies, right? It means we need to protect those farm workers who are on the front lines. We need to focus on better housing to physically block mosquitoes. We need to use insecticides strategically in and around homes. And we have to teach communities that the risk isn't just deep in the jungle. It could literally be in their own backyard. And that leaves us with this final, really challenging thought. We're getting so much better at fighting diseases that only infect humans. But the next great frontier is zoonosis, these diseases with animal reservoirs. Solving the puzzle of monkey malaria isn't just about one parasite, it's a preview of one of the biggest public health challenges of our time.